It represents about, well, a little over 52.5% of the district's expenditures are devoted to teachers' compensation, total compensation. As you can see, you can't get much flatter. It's been just about there all the time. But there's something else I want you to know. See that yellow arrow bar at the top? That is a statewide average. It's just a hair under 60% of districts' expenditures across the state are devoted to instructional compensation costs for teachers. So the problem is not that they're paying too much somehow and it's driving the train and driving them into bankruptcy. The problem from an educational standpoint may be what? That they're not spending enough. In fact, when I took a look at educational support services, those folks that support you, I saw the same picture. The cost for those folks, as a matter of fact, is ranged right around 9.5%, 10% of total revenues. That's the total cost for instructional support, total. That compares to about 13.5% across the state. So again, they're not spending as much money on instructional support as you would expect just to do what? Just to sort of stay even with the board. Why do I care about that? As a matter of fact, this is a shortage of revenues committed to instruction. I figured I'd put a dollar value on it so you understood it. It has ranged from a high of about $11 million to a low of about $2 million a year. Now that buys a lot of Kleenex. Why do I care about that? Now I care about it as an educator, not as a financial guy. Because here's what I know. A great study that came out of McKinsey & Company, one of the country's largest consulting firms. The study was called How the World's Best Performing School Systems Come Out on Top. And one of the things they concluded is student performance rises when schools increase the percentage of total operating funds expenditures devoted to classroom instruction. West Bloomfield has a different theory, which is student performance will increase if we spend less money on them. I don't know what research supports that theory, but that has to be what they believe, or they wouldn't be shorting instruction. Because the only people that shorts ultimately is who? The kids. It doesn't short you. You've got your education, it shorts the kids. I don't know why a school system would operate in terms of the way that they devote their monies to move their money as far away from the kid as they possibly can. I wanted to take a look at other expenditures, non-educational expenditures, non-instructional expenditures, to see if they were driving the train. Is this where they were spending all the money? The first one I took a look at was the green bars. Those are administration costs. Yeah, those are the highest non-instructional costs you have. Administration costs are higher than the cost to maintain the buildings and pay the people to do it and clean them and fix them and all that stuff. All that stuff is the red bars. Also pretty flat, gone down a little bit. And then the blue bars are transportation costs. And again, they've been down a little bit. For the most part, none of these are driving the train. In other words, if the district is experiencing financial difficulties, it's not because any of these costs have just gone wildly out of control. They've been just about the same as they have always been over the last 6 years. There is one area, however, that's higher than the state average. You're probably amazed by this. It's the people that make the decision about how much money people get paid, called administrators. Administrators are above the state. This is the only group in West Bloomfield that is above the state average. Now, and I will tell them that at least it's been consistent. You know, they didn't mess around and say, well, every once in a while. They do it, consistently. Now, remember that study about the dollars you get closer to the kids in terms of instructional expenditures, the better outcomes you get? So if you're thinking about in education terms, who's closer to the kids? Those people that provide instructional services or administrators? I don't know, but I'm just thinking. Here's the bottom line. You're a good group, because a lot of times I put this up there and people sit there and just dead silent say, you really didn't do that. Yeah, here's the bottom line. If the district is experiencing financial difficulties, it is not because they are committing significantly more of their available revenues to what? Salary, insurance, or retirement costs, and it doesn't matter where you look. So it must be something else. So my question became, what about general fund revenues used for non-educational purposes? Now somebody should be saying, wait a minute, Arch, you just said 10 minutes ago that the general fund was intended to be used to provide a full range of educational services for kids. So what do you mean, non-educational services? Well, districts spend general fund tax dollars for things that have nothing directly to do with educating kids. I know that's hard to believe, but it happens here and other places. So I wanted to take a look at those non-educational expenditures. And they really fall into three categories. The little gray bar you see occasionally is transfer to debt service fund. The red bar is capital outlay spent directly from the general fund. And the blue bar is transferred to athletics. Now, don't get me wrong here. Before I got old and fat, I was a jock and a coach. So I do understand athletics. But the catch is that every one of these programs can be paid for in other ways other than using the general fund monies intended for every kid who walks through the door of West Bloomfield. So the question is this the highest, best use of those dollars? For instance, capital outlay can be paid for how? Out of either a sinking fund you ask the voters to pass, or just a capital projects fund. Debt service should be paid from servicing bonds with the millage that supports the bonds to pay for the debt. It builds the buildings and does that kind of stuff. Or refurbishes them. Athletics. More and more schools now are starting to move to what? A recreation millage to supplement and pay for athletics. One of the easiest millages on the face of the earth to pass, because what do we know about athletics? We know that a mascot is the most difficult animal on the face of the earth to kill. People will support paying for athletics before they would support paying for enhanced English and math skills. So why not take advantage of that and allow them to pay for the programs that they want? And they will. In other words, bottom line is this money does not have to be used, general fund money, for these purposes. Here's how I relate it. If I'm paying my mortgage, if I'm paying my utility bills, if I'm putting food on my table for my family and giving my teenager what he needs for school, and yes, God help me, I still have one, and I get done at the end of the year, and I have money left over, it's perfectly acceptable for me to take some of that money and put it in my Florida vacation fund. Everybody say, well, that's fine. On the other hand, if I'm struggling to meet my mortgage, if I'm behind in my utilities, if I can't give my kid what he needs for school, and I say, you know what, I think I'm going to take $500 and put it in my Florida vacation fund, what would you say to me? That's irresponsible. You nuts? Yeah. That doesn't make any sense. Same thing here.